how would you describe the setting that first created BUCKCHERRY? In the '90s. Like, how would you describe the scene?
Here, I mean, it was right at the tail of, the big 80s rock scene. So, well, not when BUCKCHERRY started. That's not when I first got to LA, I was 19, and that was, I got to experience a little bit of that. But no, when BUCKCHERRY started, there wasn't a scene in LA anymore, a rock scene. I mean, there were rock clubs, and there still are to this day, but it just wasn't like it used to be. But that didn't matter. I mean, we knew what we wanted to do at that point in time, and it all worked out.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, my introduction to your band was a mate of mine in high school loaning me his Woodstock '99 live album, and I heard you guys playing Lit Up, and obviously it's again, as an Australian, what had went down at Woodstock '99 is not something that was really, it wasn't on the news or anything. We only found out about it
Yeah.
years later. Um,
Yeah.
Mate, what's it been like dealing with renewed interest in that festival from the recent documentary? Like, what are your memories of the festival?
Yeah, it sucks because, well, first of all, we were really new on the scene. Lit Up had just started really taking off, and that's how we got on there. We started having a hit with Lit Up, but we weren't as established as a lot of the acts that were on Woodstock '99. So we played very early on in the day on a Friday, and then we had to leave right after because we had another show in another state, the next day. So we left and we didn't know anything that was going on there. A lot of the artists didn't know anything that was going on until they saw this documentary, and because we're far removed from all that. We're in the VIP area, and like the documentary pointed out, the artists got treated pretty well, and it was the people that were attending the concert that it was just terrible. What a shit show.
Oh
And
man.
as an artist, it makes you feel bad because you don't know what's going on, and you want them to have a great experience, of course. So that kind of was the dark shadow over the whole event. But as far as like the artists, everybody was bringing it. I got to meet James Brown that day, which is amazing because he passed not too long after that, and just we were filled with piss and vinegar, and we got to go on in front of a lot of people, and it was good.
Yeah, man. It's funny for all the negativity. You still hear people like Jonathan Davis describing playing with Korn that night and just be like, "Bro,
Yeah.
what?"
Yeah, he's a real talent, that guy, and Corn. It's just amazing live. They bring it for sure.
I finally got to see them bucket list since 1995, and last year in
Yeah,
December, I was front row in the
yeah,
pit for Korn, and Jesus Christ, I was
yeah,
lost divine.
yeah, yeah.
now,
It's quite an experience.
now, mate, how long have you been working on Raw Like Thunder?
Yeah, Roll Like Thunder. We, listen, we write really fast. It's the same process. Me, Stevie, and Marty Fredrickson put it all together. And really the most of the record came together in 2 weeks. But like it wasn't just 2 weeks. It was like me and Stevie laboring over a lot of demos and songs and accumulating a lot of ideas up until the moment we fly to Nashville, and then we do like a 2 week songwriting session with Marty, and then the record is done. But I mean, in that 2 weeks, we are working around the clock. We're very efficient with our time. I'm singing 2 hours a day, tracks down, and I'm writing 2 hours a night, lyrics and melodies, and it's a lot.
That's interesting to hear a band say, "Yeah, we work fast." Why do you think? Why do you think that is? I mean, obviously you compact it. You were just explaining it. You work very hard in that time and you compact it into it. I don't know.
You
Has that
cut
always
out. Can
been
you
the
hear
case?
me?
Yes, mate. I'm sorry. How would I rephrase that? Why do you think BUCKCHERRY works so fast? Because
Yeah.
that seems to be unusual for a band.
We're consistent. We're
Mm,
consistently putting out records, so and even once we finish a record cycle, it's only like a couple months before we start accumulating ideas and writing and brainstorming. And I'm always in that creative mode, and so is Stevie, and Marty is constantly writing songs with artists other than ourselves, so it's really once you get together and you start going for it. I mean, we're all inspired at that point. We're really inspired by everybody who's in the room, and we just want to make the best songs we can make, and it's exciting and challenging, and I don't know. I've always worked fast.
Mate, as someone who has you've been doing this since the 90s, what are your survival tips for touring? Like how and have they changed over the years?
Survival tips for touring: good communication.
Mm,
You know, keep yourself in check so that it's easier to get along with other people because you're in tight quarters with a lot of people. You know what I mean? So yeah, you can't really hide anything on the road. So if you have any glaring bad habits, they're going to be addressed. So you got to work on that. And I don't know, good books. You make sure you got a good workout regimen. It's good for your mind. You know, just be able to stay in your lane and contain yourself, and be all right with and be in acceptance, and then everything will go well.
like that. Yeah. Now, as we all get older, we're all supposed to get a little wiser. Like, do you look back on some of the early days of touring and wonder how you survived?
I do, yeah. And still to this day I tour a lot, so I just try to stay in the moment. And I always thank a God of my understanding, every night when I got somewhere safely, the bus, the plane, a lot of the travel, you know what I mean? Anything can happen. So I'm always grateful, and that's a big thing. Gratitude is a huge thing. And then before I walk on, I'm still nervous and excited, and that passion is still there. So as long as that's there, everything's fine.
Suppose that does say something. You hit on a really good point there that you could be doing this for decades, but as long as you still get nervous when you go on stage, like that's actually a good thing because it means you still
It is.
care.
It is. Yeah. It's definitely a good thing. Um, and that's the best part about all of this. Like
Mm,
we always say, we get paid for the travel. We don't get paid for being on stage.
yeah, I like that. Yeah. And mate, who do you see looking at the music landscape in its current form? Who do you see as the biggest rock stars in the world today? I mean, does that term even mean what it used to?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Everything is so diluted, information and everything. It's no longer a controlled marketplace like it used to be. Um, it's kind of even happening with celebrities. Not just musicians and rock stars. I mean, you still got the dinosaurs that are still going. That haven't passed yet, which is great. But they're bona fide rock stars. Whenever you see them, you know who they are. But yeah, I don't know. People don't know many people unless it's part of your um, vortex. You know what I mean? Everybody
Mm,
creates their own little world now of information that they get, and if you're not in that stream of information, people don't know who you are, what's going on with you.
yeah, yeah. It, looking back over your upbringing and your musical life, what are the albums that changed your life? What are the ones that had a massive impact on you?
I mean, in the rock genre, Minor Threats, Out of Step had a big impact on me. The Toy Dolls, Dig That Groove, Baby. AC/DC's Back in Black, Led Zeppelin's House of the Holy, Cult Electric. Those records were big for me.
Yeah, cool, cool. Lastly, mate, what do you think? You've got a great stage presence as a frontman. What do you think are the attributes of a good rock and roll frontman?
Um, I can only speak for myself. The front men that I liked had to be like masculine enough to where I thought they were cool. As far as I don't know if you want to say hard, but like I don't know, they had to be masculine, but they had to have the charisma to, for all the girls to like them as well. So I always liked that type of frontman. That's why I liked guys like Ian Astbury, and Axl Rose was so great when he came out. For the first time, it was like, wow. And Robert Plant, and the list goes on. Steven Tyler. They all have a vibe. They have a swagger, and they got style, and they got a thing. And but they're also masculine enough to where you're like, those dudes are rad. Like guys can get into them.
It is funny you should mention that. And this is about 2 meters away, so I'm just going to go grab something. What? Check this out.
Sure.
I have. So, Josh, I have young children. I have a 10-year-old and 8-year-old, and one of them brought
Nice.
home a school book recently for their reading. That they do in primary school. I was not
Yeah.
ready for the subject of one of their books. This is David
Oh,
Bowie.
it's so awesome.
I
So
saw this
awesome.
literally this morning. I'm like, my son is reading a book about, and I'm like, do you know who David Bowie is? No. I'm like, oh,
That's
this
amazing.
is
And then you guys, you two get to take a journey. He gets to learn. That's
right.
awesome.
Would
Yeah.
you, what kind of chapters of the book would there be if there was a Josh Todd children's book?
I don't think that Josh Todd would make it into the children's book. I think it'd be a little too much for children, but I'm sure there's parts of David Bowie's career that are a little too much for children as well. But you know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know. It's just David Bowie was way more of a character than I was. He really transformed himself, you know, throughout the years as far as his persona and what he created. He was definitely a lot more creative than me.
Oh, dear. Yeah, bless him. Josh, this has been rad, man. Thank you very much for your time, dude.
Thank you.
Enjoy. Yeah, man. Congratulations on the album and all the best for the shows.
I appreciate it, man. Good to
No
see you.